Hi there, my name's Ms Bramall and I'm really looking forward to joining you at Yewlands Academy in September. I will be starting at the same time as you, and I'm really looking forward also to being your Year 7 form tutor. I'm sure that I will be able to give you lots of help and support, and you will be able to give each other lots of help and support as well. We'll make a great form together as long as we learn to work together as a team. Now, I was asked to do a little video for you to introduce myself to you because obviously due to lockdown, I haven't been able to come in and meet any of you, and neither of any of the other Year 6s that are moving into Year 7 in September. So it got me thinking, what can I really talk to you about? So I've been around my garden, which is one of my favourite places, and I've certainly used it a lot during the lockdown time. And I've taken a few photos. Now, I'm a science teacher as well as a form teacher, so I've gone around the garden and thought about lots of different links to science. So I hope I don't bore you too much, but here's my little science walk around my garden to introduce myself to you. Okay, so this was just my little starting slide so that you can see my name written down, and can't wait to see you at Yewlands in September. Let's go on then with my little walk around my garden. So the first thing I took a picture of for you is my beloved fire pit, which I think I mentioned in the letter to you. I've been using a lot during lockdown, just making little fires and roasting marshmallows. Me and my kids have been having a great time doing that. And obviously this is part of chemistry. We'll all be learning to burn lots of things. You'll be learning how to use a Bunsen burner and learning about the different chemical reactions that we can see when we burn things. And the process of burning things is known as combustion. The next thing I took a picture of was my bird table, which has been newly introduced in the garden. And we look at lots of different living things in biology, plants and animals. And I'm not a big bird watcher, but I've certainly enjoyed looking at them during lockdown and having that time to see what kind of birds visit my garden. And I've had all sorts of things from the bigger birds like magpies and the big wood pigeons down to, I've had a thrush, some starlings and blackbirds and sparrows, and my favourite one are the little robins. I've got a pair of robins. One of them really likes to sit on top of my swingball, which we'll come to in a bit. Okay, so the next thing that I've taken a picture of is part of my patio wall that's started to break down. And this really, I've said, is part of geology, weathering and erosion. And geology is the study of rocks. And we do come across that a little bit in secondary school science, sometimes in chemistry, when we look at the rock cycle and how things break down and how they wear away over time. The next picture, I already mentioned it, is my swing ball, which has been an absolute lifesaver during lockdown. It's been the one thing that's persuaded my two older boys and my younger daughter to get outside and just do a little bit more physical activity instead of being stuck on their computers all the time, their PlayStations. So it's been great. And I put that the swing ball can be used to demonstrate some physics. As the ball's going round and round and round, it's moving. We do a lot of studies of movement in physics, acceleration, velocity and speed and the difference between them. The next thing I took a picture of, not very glamorous, is my compost heap. That's where I put all the things that I've cut down from the garden to rot down and to be recycled into new compost that I can then put back on the garden the following year. Now, you perhaps can't tell from this picture, but that compost heap is nearly as tall as me. So I certainly haven't emptied it this year. I really should have done. And you can see that I haven't also cut my grass for a couple of weeks because all the grass cuttings on there are brown now. But we will look at things like that in biology, how things break down and decompose and minerals can be recycled. The next thing I took a picture of was my trampoline, which has been, again, very well used. We haven't been going out much, so it's been nice to have somewhere else to get some exercise. And it made me think about physics again and forces, because as you're jumping on a trampoline, then the forces keep changing. First of all, you're being pulled down by the force of gravity or your weight into the trampoline, and then you bounce up again because the elastic forces in the trampoline help to push you back up again. And we'll look at forces when we look at physics. Now then, I couldn't walk around my garden without taking a picture of my beloved hostas. I've got quite a few different types of hostas, and you can see they've all got different coloured leaves. And I just think they look beautiful when they come out with all of those leaves coming out. They don't have very big flowers on them. It's the leaves that we grow the hostas for. And there's all sorts of different plants in my garden, but I think my hostas are some of my favourites. And it makes me think about photosynthesis, which is a word you may not have heard of before. But photosynthesis is the process that all green plants use to turn the sun's energy into their food. The next thing I've got on my video is a picture of my shed, which I do love since I painted it this lovely greeny grey colour with cream highlights. And this year I have added a string of solar lights to the side of my shed so that it decorates the garden and lights it up in the evening. It's got a little solar panel on it that charges a battery in the daytime, and then it automatically senses when it goes dark, and as soon as it goes dark it switches the little lights on and it powers them from the battery. And you'll learn all about energy changes when you study physics, how electricity comes from batteries and can use that energy to change into light energy and heat energy in this particular case. The next thing I took a picture of was my pond, and I do love the pond. It's where I have my one and only pet, which is a very large goldfish. And I don't think you can see it very well on this picture, but it's sitting right at the back of the pond there. You can see that there's all sorts of other things in the pond as well. I've got a couple of different types of plants that you can see clearly in that picture. There's a water lily that will be flowering in a few weeks, and you can see a bit of duckweed on the top. You might not be able to see all the pondweed that's underneath that produces the oxygen. And a pond is a good example of a habitat, and the goldfish lives in that habitat. I don't, I just admire it from afar. The next picture I've got is something far less glamorous than the pond. It's just part of my children's climbing frame that's going a bit rusty. It's quite old now, and you can see in the foreground, although it's not in very good focus, where the steel frame has changed from a grey colour to that orangey brown colour, and you can perhaps see an orangey brown stain running down the climbing frame there. And that orange brown colour is actually a chemical reaction called rusting. It's when iron reacts with oxygen in the air and it turns into iron oxide, which is the chemical name for rust. The next thing I've taken a picture of, which I would have really liked if I hadn't been able to find any, but it's the weeds on my patio. Now then, this is part of my patio that is fairly close to the pond, and I don't like to use weed killers just there because weed killers can get into the water in the pond and it can cause all sorts of damage to the things that live in the pond. So these particular weeds keep having to be pulled up or scraped away, and you can see I did it a couple of weeks ago and they've all sprung back up already. So weeds are very, very well adapted to keep on growing back in places where you perhaps don't want them to grow. And that's why they're weeds, because they're growing where you don't want them. And the final thing that I took a picture of was my daughter's little Wendy house. And it's made of plastic. And when you go into GCSE in chemistry, you will look at plastics, and we call them polymers, and you'll learn about how polymers are made and all the different types of polymers that have different names. You might have heard of polythene bags. Those are the single-use carriers that we used to get at supermarkets. We don't really get so much anymore. You might have heard of PVC that we use to make window frames from. So that's another type of a polymer. So that's the end of my little science walk around the garden. Okay, so I do hope you enjoyed my science walk around the garden. It's time for me to sign off now, and I'm really looking forward to seeing you all in September. I do hope you have a lovely summer, a nice break, and ready to get to know lots of new people and to help each other as we all start together at Yewlands Academy in September. I'll see you very soon. Take care. Bye-bye.